Bruce is the best coach our country has ever produced. We did sign Bruce to a 2-year extension before the end of 2016, and ultimately we had a decision to make. We felt that Bruce taking over as head coach of the United States men's national team was good for the Galaxy, good for Bruce Arena, and good for the betterment of soccer in the United States. We've always had a great relationship with U.S. Soccer, and we will support Bruce in the same way we have supported all of our national team managers as he takes on this new challenge. Before I go into detail on our next step in regards to a general manager and our head coaching search, I'd like to thank Mr. Anschutz and Dan Beckerman for their continued support and investment into this club and this league. Mr. Anschutz has long been the greatest investor and greatest believer in this club and our league's potential. Without Phil, it's uncertain where this league would be today. Mr. Anschutz and Dan have played an integral part in making this team a championship-winning dynasty and a club that has captured 5 MLS Cups in the league's 21-year history. The investment from Mr. A and AEG will continue as we begin a new era for the LA Galaxy. We've been preparing for this transition for a number of years, knowing that at some point, key players and key pieces of this team would move on. We made a number of decisions the past couple of years that have helped prepare us for this transition. This offseason, we became more aggressive with our decisions with a number of key players departing, allowing us to build our team around Giovanni Dos Santos, Gyasi Zardes, Sebastian Lletget, Jelle Van Dam, and our entire back line. Pete Vagenas has been a key piece of this transition team. Pete has built our academy program into one of the best in the nation. For the past year and a half, Pete has also worked closely with Bruce. Pete has been part of this club since its early years and embodies everything that the Galaxy stands for. It is my pleasure to announce that Pete will be our club's new general manager. We believe he and our league will position him for success as the Galaxy move forward. Pete will have all the resources he needs to be successful in this new role. As it pertains to the role of our head coach, we will speak with both internal and external candidates for the position. It's imperative for us to hire someone who is familiar with our club and our philosophy. Similar to Pete, the new coach will have all the necessary resources needed to be successful. We have a timeline in place and will communicate news as we finalize the process. We understand that this is a busy time of year for us as we prepare for 2017, so we want to be quick and efficient in our search, and we'll bring someone in who can start working towards 2017 immediately. I couldn't be more excited about the direction for this club, and we have a great opportunity in front of us and are excited about the new era for questions.
Thank you, Chris. A reminder to everyone on the call, please hit 5 stars should you have a question. We will take questions in the following order to kick off the conference call. We will start with Kevin Baxter from the LA Times, Alexi Lawless from Fox, Jeff Carlisle from ESPN, and Ivis Galarcep from Goal.com. I'll now open it up to you, Kevin Baxter.
Hey, thank you, and thanks for your time, Chris. Couple of questions on the hiring today. How does Pete's new role differ from the old role? And I'm assuming he worked pretty closely with Bruce, so it's somewhat seamless. But the second part of the question would be the decision to go ahead with Pete but not to hire or to fill the coaching position at this time. Does that say that you wanted to broaden the search? Has this always sort of been the plan? You talked about having a transition plan in place. Was this always the plan to make the general manager hire first and then extend your search for a coach outside?
Sure. I think first, Bruce held 2 roles, and he was both our general manager and our head coach. So we made the decision to separate those 2 roles. And Pete has been working with Bruce, but ultimately Bruce was building this team and making decisions to build the roster of our first team. So with those added responsibilities that now Pete will fill, I felt that this was the right first choice that we had to make. In addition to that is that Pete will be involved in the hiring of our new coach. And so in hiring the general manager position, it allows us to go out together and search for the next best manager for the LA Galaxy. In terms of a transition, even though we have been preparing for this as we build our list of candidates, it doesn't mean that an internal candidate is not the direction we're going. It just means that we have an opportunity to hire a head coach, and so we wanted to look both inside our club and outside, as there are many great coaches in this country and beyond.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll now open it up to Alexi Lawless with Fox.
Hey, Chris, a couple quick questions here. One, you mentioned that the Galaxy had a decision to make. Does that mean that Bruce did not have an out clause in the 2-year deal that he signed that let him become the national team coach? I guess that's a quick one. Secondly, following up, what is the difference then between what Pete is doing for the Galaxy in 2017 and what you are doing for the Galaxy in 2017? And then third, the press release said that you were going to have a timeline regarding the next coach, and you mentioned that I don't think you're going to have that. Is that correct?
So first, Bruce did not have an out in his contract that allowed him to leave for the national team position. When we signed him to his extension, we both had the understanding that it could be a possibility, but with our relationship with Bruce, our relationship with U.S. Soccer, and ultimately how Mr. Anschutz and Dan have always run this company and run our club, we didn't think it was necessary. So that was the first thing. In terms of responsibilities between myself and Pete, I mean, as president of the club, I'll oversee both our business and the soccer side, but I also understand that we need people that make those decisions. So it will be up to Pete and the new coach and our staff from Galaxy 2 down through our academy to execute the direction that we started with the Galaxy. What was your third question again? Timeline. I mean, we're actively preparing for 2017 now, but we know that a head coach has to be integrated into that process and needs to have a voice in that process. So the sooner the better for us, and we expect to have a new coach in place before the new year.
Thank you, Alexi. Now I'm going to jump over to Jeff Carlisle with ESPN. Jeff?
Yeah, Chris. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the search. I mean, have you how far along in the hiring process or the search process for a new coach are you? Have you interviewed any candidates? Have you reached out to anyone? And as a second question, what was it specifically that Pete brought to the table in terms of you guys hiring him as opposed to looking outside the organization?
The first thing, the only internal candidate that we've spoken to is Kurt Onalfo. I can confirm that. We're going through the process now about reaching out to other candidates. Some are currently coaching in this league, so we have to get permission to speak to them, and we're going through that process now. We expect the interviewing of those candidates to take place shortly. In terms of Pete, working with him over the past 3 years since he's been with our academy, not only does he have a deep affection for the LA Galaxy and knows what we're about dating back to when this club was founded, but he also has a knowledge of what we've been building. That's the foundation in our academy through the launch of Galaxy 2 and then certainly with the success we've had with the first team. I'm confident in the value that he brings to the club and understanding us and also understanding the league rules and how we can best build a team that could be successful.
Thanks, Jeff. Before we jump to Ivis Galarcep, the following three after Ivis are going to be Scott French with 442, Ridge Mahoney with Soccer America, and Adam Serrano with LAGalaxy.com. We'll now go to you, Ivis Galarcep of Goal.com.
Chris, you mentioned the fact that there are definitely a lot of good candidates in this country for the position. Is it a safe bet that the next coach for the Galaxy will be someone from within MLS, or are you still open to the idea of hitting the international market for a candidate?
It's a good question. The Domestic coaches have certainly had more success in our league than those from without. Not saying that a foreign coach could not be successful with us. We are definitely looking at candidates. I mean, we've had people contact us from all over the world, names that everyone would know and some that you wouldn't. So we are not ruling it out. It's likely we will interview at least one coach that is not from our country. So our search is primarily focused on domestic coaches, but we would like to at least interview one foreign candidate.
Thanks, Chris.
We'll jump to you, Scott French.
Hi, Chris. I guess the core of my question is, how do you follow Bruce? When he came on, the current club culture really stems from him and what he brought to this team. The current success is really all about him. How do you replace that? Does it mean that the culture is going to change, or do you look to build upon it? And does that really depend on who you hire as a head coach? And secondly, is Dave Sarakin in consideration?
I would characterize it a little differently. I think the culture of the LA Galaxy has existed since 1996, and it's been developed through players like Kobe Jones and Mauricio Cienfuegos and coaches like Ziggy, and I think it was carried through to the next level with someone like Bruce Arena. The success that he's had over 8+ seasons here, you don't replace. You don't replace the Bruce Arena. I think we're thankful for everything that he has brought here, and we will move on to the next phase of a very good history for the LA Galaxy. So I'm not trying to get the next new Bruce Arena. We're trying to take the next step and learn from what he has brought this club and celebrate all that he was. And it's the same thing with players. You don't replace Landon Donovan or Robbie Keane, but we have to go out and get the next player because the expectations are still the same. But the expectations have really never changed from the Galaxy, and that started before Bruce Arena was here.
And Sarakin?
Dave will not be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We'll run down the next folks to ask questions. We'll start with Ridge Mahoney, then Adam Serrano, then Damian Calhoun, then Jonathan Tannenwald, then Josie Becker. We'll jump now to Ridge Mahoney with Soccer America. Ridge?
Thanks, man. The Galaxy has been pretty successful the last few years, not only signing high-priced players, but pushing guys up from the Galaxy.
Ridge?
Succeeded and some guys have failed.
Ridge, can you speak into the phone? We can't really hear you.
I'm sorry?
Could you restate your question, please? Yeah, Ridge, we can't really hear you.
How's that? Is that better?
That is better.
I'm sorry. Chris, the Galaxy's been extremely successful the last few years, pushing players up from the second team as well as signing, pretty productive high-priced players. Do you detect a significant change perhaps in that formula going forward, or are you just kind of trying to enhance what you've been doing that's worked pretty well the last 5-10 years?
No, I mean, we believe deeply in the foundation that we're setting with our academy, and we think we're just starting to see the fruit of that. Galaxy 2, we've had success pushing players forward. Good example is Daniel Steres this year. That will continue. That is Pete's job to align us from our first team through our academy and make that system work. It will be the combination of that and our foundation in that and developing our own players, but it also hasn't changed that we know players like Giovanni Dos Santos and Robbie Keane and David Beckham have become a hallmark of this club. And so we have the resources, the backing from AEG to continue aggressively in this manner.
Can I ask, is Ziggy one of your candidates?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on some candidates. Certainly, Ziggy's history, not only in this club, but with Seattle and his standing as a coach in our league, would make anyone think of him as a candidate. So we have not spoken yet, though.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ridge. Now we're going to go to Adam Serrano, LAGalaxy.com.
Do you look at, Bruce's transition to the national team coach? Do you look at this team kind of being something of the end of an era, having Bruce, lead the team for such a long time? And do you feel like this team has to kind of evolve in today's MLS?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's the end of Bruce's tenure, which has been very successful. I don't know if I see it. I guess you could see it as the end of an era, but that pertains to Bruce. It pertains to Robbie Keane, certainly, and then, Landon last year as well. So I guess you could say that that's part of it, and we need to transition into a new phase of us. But I think anytime you have someone with his personality and time here, that it is a transition. But we feel that the foundation of this team is very strong. If we started the season today, we have a strong team, and we have resources and roster spots and money to go out and improve this team. That needs Pete's involvement. That needs a new coach that can take the next step. But certainly having pieces like that depart have an impact on your club.
Thank you, Adam. We'll now jump to Damian Calhoun. Damian?
Chris, good morning. What I want to keep the topic on the field there. What do you think the team needs to improve headed into next year?
Improve. We need consistency, but I mean, you look at the number of injuries we had, and if you look at Giassi, Gio, Sebastian, Ema, our entire back line is returning, goalkeeper position. I think we need consistency in midfield. And so to be able to add pieces like that, but that's built around the core of this team, in this league is difficult. I think you're seeing, not that you're seeing all of the teams go away from some older DPs, but it becomes more and more difficult for them to succeed in our league as it grows and it continues to get better. So it's something we recognize, and it's, I think, something that will direct our future.
Thanks, Damian. The next three questions will come from Jonathan Tannenwald, Josie Becker, and Steve Brizendine. We'll jump to you now, Jonathan.
Hi. Quick question for Chris and a follow-up. Chris, you mentioned earlier that Bruce didn't have an out clause, and forgive me for not knowing all the little details, but can you just give a reminder of then how the separation happened?
I mean, the easiest way to describe it is through a relationship. U.S. Soccer called to get permission. We had a conversation with Bruce, and he said he was interested, and so we allowed that conversation to happen. That's the easiest way to describe it, and I would just come back and thank U.S. Soccer for the way that they handled it. Certainly Bruce and everything that he has done for this club made it a fairly easy decision.
Would a mutual termination be a fair phrase then?
I don't even know if it's a mutual termination. We just let him out of his contract and let him go to U.S. Soccer. Okay, that's what I was trying to make sure I had clear. With the next coach, you talked about this in brief a moment ago. I was wondering if you could expand on whether there is going to be any particular mandate to that coach when it comes to bringing young players through the academy to the senior team and getting them playing time at the senior level. Thanks. It's not a mandate, but we're certainly looking for a coach that believes in our system and what we've established, and I think that's part of the interview process. If you had someone that came in and didn't have a belief in us and didn't have a belief in what we have, in what we can do, then they're not going to be the right person for us. So I don't believe that you're going to get a coach in and change them. So we're looking for the right guy that has a belief in us, and in return we have a belief of what they can do and how they can move us forward.
Thank you.
We'll take two more questions. We'll start with Josie Becker with MLSsoccer.com. Josie?
Hi, Chris. Since it is an expansion draft year, can you talk about how important is it to have a head coach in place when those roster decisions are being made? And also how important, when you're looking at foreign coaches, is knowledge of MLS and knowing player acquisition rules and those sorts of things? Is that going to be more on the GM side, and so the coach is really just strictly on the field stuff, or is it kind of a combo deal?
Yeah, I mean, first, with the expansion draft and other roster decisions that we have to make now, ideally you would like a coach in place, because the relationship between a coach and general manager, I believe, is the most important one that you can have. We don't have that now, and so the decisions that we have to make are being executed by Pete, and once we have a head coach in place, then they will collaborate in those decisions going forward. As it relates to a foreign head coach, I don't know that the knowledge of MLS is most important, but I do believe that a coach has to have a belief not only in our club, but in our league. There are a lot of bright soccer minds throughout the world that could easily translate what they do to our league, but they have to respect it, and they have to believe in it. And I think a lot of times you see that as the greatest challenge in terms of success in our league. If you can find a foreign coach that has a belief in our club and in what we're doing and how we're growing as a league, then there's no reason that they couldn't be successful. In saying that, it's been a challenge for a lot in the past, and I think that could be a big piece of it.
Thank you, Josie. Before we close the call will be available in its entirety on LAGalaxy.com. You can also email a member of the LA Galaxy communications staff, and we will send you the recorded call. We will close out with Steve Brizendine with MLSsoccer.com. Steve?
Hey, Chris, just a question. I mean, you've got another team coming into LA in the near future. The last team that came to LA was a niche team. This one's not. They're going for a pretty broad spectrum appeal. How important is it for the new GM, the new coach, to maintain that level of success and the level of, if you will, exciting signings in view of that competition coming into your market soon?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're excited about the addition of LAFC into the league and in the marketplace. In terms of how it impacts our decisions, it doesn't. I mean, we're built off a history that started with this league, and we'll stand on our success against the team in our market and outside our market and anywhere else in our league. So we do what we do, and we've done it, I believe, very well over the course of our history. And so most important thing for us is to continue in that manner. That certainly exists with the hiring of Pete, and it will exist with the hiring of a new coach.